Today, I'm going to explain why I think macOS is better than Windows. Or at least, to me, it just makes more sense. macOS is based on Unix, just like Linux is. To me, files and ownership make sense. The settings are simple and make sense, and pretty much all in one place. Windows is built on the Windows NT kernel, which is pretty convoluted and messy and all over the place. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Files and ownership and program files feel messy. There is a registry, there's a group policy editor. There are so many fragmented ways of doing everything. Windows is becoming more and more bloated when you download and install it. And just trying to use it, it feels like they're trying to sell you stuff the whole time. It feels like they are trying to push the way they want you to do things. I know this is ironic when talking about Apple because Apple forces you into a walled garden in a lot of ways, and it's true, but I'm just comparing the two. Obviously, I think Linux is superior to both in most ways, but macOS, I still feel, is better than Windows for a lot of things. There is also talks by Microsoft about Windows becoming an AI agentic operating system as time goes on. And I don't know about you, but I do not want my entire operating system to be an AI agent. You just know that's going to become a user nightmare of absolute chaos. And yes, I know Microsoft has only made good decisions on the latest Windows builds. Just kidding, have you ever used Windows 11? I also just do not like how Microsoft is constantly making what seems to be the worst decisions on every single thing. I like how Apple's over here in these crazy times. They're slow, but they're steady, and they're making wins. I have one of their MacBooks right here. It's incredible, super reliable, and never has any issues. They just keep having hardware wins, and their software is all right. Sometimes it has some bugs, but I will say it's still more pleasant to use, and it just blends in. I feel like Windows does not blend in and just become an invisible operating system. Windows is just simply trying to be in your face, and it's really annoying, and it's trying to push things and be loud. And then macOS is quiet. It just sits in the background, nice and calm. You just do your thing. Obviously, Windows Update has been an issue since the dawn of time. How many times have you turned on your computer knowing I need to get something done? Maybe you're at work, maybe school, or maybe it's a project that you only have a limited time for, or you need to get on the game with the boys. And Windows is like, no, we're going to update for a while right now. I didn't tell it could update. Sure, maybe tell me that there's an update available, but you're just constantly forcing these updates on me, and you lock down my computer until it's done. On macOS, never have that issue. It's like, oh hey, guess what? I've got an update for you if you want to install that at some point. And then I go and I say, well, I'm not going to do that right now. I have something to do. I'm busy. But we can do that tonight while I'm sleeping. It's all good. Now, of course, I have an iPhone and I have Apple Watches, stuff like that. Yes, some of their devices struggle with updates. Like my Apple Watch is just like, all right, I'm going to update tonight. Next morning, the watch is like, sorry, vibe was off, and it just doesn't update. That's a mystery to me. But my computer doesn't have issues with that. I just tell it to update when I want it to update, and it's all good. For me, that was actually one of the first reasons I switched to macOS over a decade ago. That was one of my biggest gripes. And then as time went on, Windows also became worse, and so kind of solidified my love for macOS. Another thing I like about macOS is that when I started to switch to Linux, now I haven't fully switched, I've just started trying to use it and learn it and really figure out what's going on with that as I'm seeing slowly with time, Windows isn't even going to be an option for me at some point in the future. If it gets bad enough, I just want to be out. But the more I used Linux, I was realizing this feels more like macOS and the way they do things. This doesn't feel Windows-like at all. I felt at home running commands in the terminal, and then some of the settings in UI is similar as well. I do like the Cinnamon desktop environment for Linux. It's quite nice. I enjoy its slight Windows feel and ease of use. But if you use something like Fedora or just Debian out of the box, it's going to feel a little bit more like macOS. This just in my opinion. But yes, going from macOS to Linux was very seamless to me, and I feel if I had gone directly from Windows to Linux, a lot of things, especially in the terminal, would have been more confusing to me. I wouldn't have known what was going on, because I am a macOS power user. I'm in the terminal a lot. I do some light coding. I enjoy getting the absolute most out of my machine and my operating system. And so many of the issues that people might have with macOS are so easy to just fix or work on in the terminal. Whereas Windows, you've got to figure out the registry. It's like dark magic. So my strategy for computing is I have one M1 Max MacBook Pro with 64 gigabytes of RAM. And that's unified memory, so very powerful stuff. And then I have it docked here. I have Thunderbolt bays. I have my Mo2 audio interface. I've got everything I need. And then my 32-inch monitor right here. And then on this machine, I run macOS, obviously. And that's where I do most of my video editing. It's just simple and easy. And then I also run Windows 11 as a virtual machine. And that's where I have Steam and games, because the games I play are Windows only. And yes, I have gotten Windows games running on macOS using different tools and workarounds, but I found it just to be a little bit easier just to spin up a Windows virtual machine, call it a day. It was just less of a headache for me. And it's just nice to have Windows as an option on here, and I can be booted up into Windows in a few seconds whenever I want. And then on here, I also have Debian Linux and Fedora Linux. Fedora is stock. I've just been playing with that, just curious. And then Debian, I actually installed Cinnamon desktop environment because I liked having the Linux Mint feel, even though Linux Mint does not support ARM CPU architecture. And then over here, I have my Asus ROG gaming laptop thing for just taking Linux Mobile. I have Linux Mint installed on there. I also have Windows 10 on here, dual boot, and it's handy just to have a separate computer that I can set up places if I need it. I bought that for about $100 quite a few years ago, just because I wanted it. I think that the laptop's from like 2013 or something, not sure. So that's my power move, to basically have one laptop and then a little cheap spare, and this entire setup runs everything I could possibly need and runs it very well. And I don't have to go and worry about RAM prices. I don't have to worry about upgrades. It just does everything with enough performance that I'm happy every single day. So that is why, for me, and I'm sure with time, many other people have the opinion that Windows sucks and macOS is a little better. Unfortunately, it's kind of limited to their hardware unless you really know what you're doing. But macOS is better. But of course, I'm going to tell everyone, if you're on Windows and you hate it, switch to Linux. Things are getting better over on the Linux side. I'm always going to be a proponent for them. Or do what I did. Use all three operating systems on a MacBook. You can get these pretty cheap used. You can buy a pretty high spec one of these, especially the original M1, which are still plenty capable, for about the same price as the 64 gigs of DDR5 I have in here, and maybe a GPU. The value for money proposition with these is absolutely insane. There is no way you could build a PC with this power right now. for the price that you can pick these up on the used market for. Look at those M1s, look at those M2s, maybe an M3. They're on M5 now. The amount of insanely capable computers on the market is just going up. And if you're thinking and you're scared, oh, but it's a MacBook, don't worry, virtual machines. So there's my rant of the day.